Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I am Retty4, this is Greyjelly91.
Hey guys.
This is Evan Nova95.
I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
And this is Jen Sarai1.
Nitwit, Blubber, Oddment, Tweak.
Thank Christ you didn't do the Hogwarts song. Matt, lead us in with the chapter summary.
Alright, this is
chapter...
this is chapter 7, The Sorting Hat. Not much to say. This is where they all get sorted into their houses. So this is sort of Harry's proper introduction to the school. And so yeah, let's just get right into it. Where do we start?
Alright, so the chapter
opens
they
enter the Hogwarts. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Door swung open at once.
Yes, with McGonagall stepping forth and giving her introduction to the book proper with Harry's first interaction. Gives a kind of diatribe on the different Hogwarts houses and what they mean for the story and for the kids in the setting. First time we hear all of the houses together actually, because we beforehand it was just Ravenclaw and Gryffindor and then Hufflepuff and Slytherin separately. So yeah, that's a thing.
I do find it interesting thinking back on the movie, because when Maggie Smith as McGonagall was giving that diatribe, just the utter contempt with which she said the word Slytherin.
And Slytherin.
Like, yeah. She just said their names, but then with Slytherin, it was like, pause, and Slytherin.
Yeah, Gryffindor,
yeah.
Ravenclaw,
Teachers
Hufflepuff,
are supposed to be unbiased, and she really didn't come off as being unbiased in that sequence.
In all fairness to her, Snape is hardly unbiased, so she's like the yin to his yang, I think.
Yeah.
And also, she kind of shows her contempt to everyone. Like, there's that moment where like her eyes linger on like Neville's clinging to his ear and like Ron's dirty nose, and she's like, oh, God. They're gonna be mine. I can feel it. I have work to do.
The cloak.
Again, it kind of little moments like that kind of enforce McGonagall's character. I mean, literally, like the first time Harry lays eyes on her, we immediately get him being like, okay, she's not someone to be messed with, and that is who she is. She's fair, but she is very stern, and you do not want to get on her bad side.
These early chapters.
Trifle with Professor McGonagall.
Oh yeah, these chapters, particularly the next one, or my mention of that, the kind of contrast between her and other teachers with similar levels of strictness, but how she's the kind of firm but strict, whereas they're the arsehole but strict. And yeah, it's just I like how she's got that kind of
other
charisma.
Teachers or just one
other teacher. Yeah. but I like the kind of contrast between those two. And how the students recognize that she's one of those teachers where everyone will just respect her by default because of I don't know, charisma, than what you would call it, presence, I guess. She can just command a classroom with her very presence, and that's set up right here in this first scene with her introduction to the students.
I mean, it's always good to have a teacher who can control a class. I think we've all been there at least once.
I definitely had a McGonagall in my school years, and they're the best teachers. But yeah, we get that kind of waiting period where they're outside the Great Hall as McGonagall goes in to kind of prep the sorting ceremony, and we get everyone kind of terrified of, oh God, we're gonna have a test.
Kind of musing what the test is gonna be.
Yeah, we're gonna be sorted in front of the entire school. Oh my God, what is that gonna be? I didn't practice, and Hermione going over spells in her head, and everyone else kind of panicking.
Ron noting how his brother told him, like, you have to wrestle a troll.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, Ron, you have how many other older brothers that might have just told you the flat out truth? Like Percy, just ask Percy. There will be no joking around. He'll tell you exactly what's going on, but no, he listened to the twins.
Yeah, because of course he did. So we have to battle a troll. What is this? But we also have the ghosts arriving. The introduction of the ghosts to the castle. We're just saying hello to the first years and the friendly ghosts before we get the end of the chapter, leading into the less friendly ones. So they go straight through and then into their main hall, and then obviously McGonagall comes back, basically leading them into the true meat of the chapter, which is the sorting itself. We also get the first scene of the Great Hall, though. The description of that room is gorgeous. I would love to eat in that hall. Not to say nothing of the food, just the ceiling. It would be quite literally enchanting.
I will say this is another sequence where I think the film did a spot-on job of recreating what the area, what I imagine everyone imagined it looking like when they first read the book. The candles floating and the long tables.
Yeah, as far as the decor and atmosphere goes, it's perfect. But in my mind, still today, I picture everything as being a little bit bigger, like more students, longer, huger tables, just like a gargantuan, impossible, impractical to shoot design, but still bigger, but the same look. So.
Well, if you go to Pottermore and you go to that, they actually have like an illustration that makes it seem much bigger than it is in the film. So yeah,
there was definitely a case of the restrictions of filmmaking. One, the fact that it was a real place, so they couldn't go too big. It had to be an actual set placing. But also the fact that they'd need so many extras. I'm of the same mind. It was perfectly designed and just presented. It was just the scale that I needed it up a bit.
I think she insisted that be right. I've heard her say in an interview that the Gryffindor common room was her favorite set, but I think she was very like the Great Hall has to be great, like it has to be right. Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, there are going to be so many scenes here. You need to have it really, set in stone in your head and capture your imagination and focus. If it's a boring scene, setting, you don't want to be going through the scenes with it.
Other than Quidditch, which is focused almost exclusively on Harry and like whatever his opponent is at the moment, like the Great Hall is really the only set, piece where like Hogwarts as a school is all there as one, at these feast moments. So yeah.
Discussing the movie
sequence also. Sorry. Go ahead.
Discussing the movie for a second, I do find it a little bit appropriate that Callan said the phrase set in stone, because one of the production details I remember when they were doing the movies is Chris Columbus actually had it so the floor and all of the stone sections of the Great Hall were actually built with actual stone bricks, because he knew that if they were going to be going through with the full, what he thought would just be 7 movies over the course of 7 years, they're going to need to have this set built to last, because they're going to be using it so many times over. They can't just get away with having painted wood, because a wooden floor painted to look like stone, that's not going to last 10 years.
That's going to rot, yeah.
I mean, it's a good point, yeah.
This chapter also notes that Professor Quirrell now has his turban. Earlier, which Connor, you mentioned that earlier in our previous chapter.
This chapter specifies that this is the first time that Quirrell's wearing the turban, which, for spoiler alert, we've not exactly been light on those, it's basically he didn't get Voldemort on his head until after he botched the Gringotts job.
And I think it's fine. Like in the course of the book, it's like, okay, so he's got a turban now. Whatever, that's weird, but okay. But like, if you were watching it in a movie and he's just all of a sudden busted out a turban, it's like, there's nothing shady about that. He's not hiding anything. So I mean, of course, he always had to be introduced wearing it. Yeah,
it was definitely one of those adaptation features that they needed to keep going for the sake of continuity and not, having it be. Why wasn't he like this before? Why, when he shaked Harry's hand, why wasn't he? Didn't have the same problem. It was all just part of the explanation for that, visually. But we get
when the ceremony starts.
Before the ceremony starts, even we open it in with the Hats song, which J.K. Rowling infamously.
Actually, before we get to that, I just want to point this out. They establish how Dumbledore is able to quiet everyone down without any effort.
Yeah,
like
without the book describes. He just screams out in the later films.
I like how that's like he literally just gets on his feet and just goes, like just casually, and everyone just instantly falls silent. I mean, I like how that plays to his character about how much respect they have for this person.
I mean, we talk about McGonagall's presence. Dumbledore has that, and and some. He can just silence the room with, like you said, just barely standing up and coughing a little bit.
And that is
the films where he literally screams like several times.
Well, I will say that Richard Harris, even though he didn't quite capture Dumbledore's energy because, well, he basically was at death's door, start to finish, but he did capture the presence of Dumbledore and the respect you would afford him. When Richard Harris does something, you take notice because it's Richard Harris.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, I found him to be an ideal Dumbledore. I definitely agree about the point with energy. I think he definitely would have struggled to do some of the later films scenes just for that alone. But the actual presence and visuals and the calm kind of disposition and just the vocal kind of discourse was just brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't dislike Michael Gambon personally, but like you said, I do think he kind of didn't quite get
You
the
put your
feel.
name in the
Well,
fire.
they
I do
changed
also
his character. They changed his character like from film to film. They got him right,
Right.
like in the later movies, but or like
Yeah,
to start. I think he didn't start getting crazy until in book 4, right? Like 3, he was just different.
He was a bit
He
stark.
wasn't.
Yeah,
at
but
his
he
prime.
went crazy
Yeah.
at 4.
Yeah.
4 is like schizophrenic.
I think the big
Yeah.
problem that went down with Goblet of Fire is who the director was and what he was trying to do.
Mm.
That to me seems like the biggest problem with that movie because, well, it's like sorry for the tangent, but it's like Goblet of Fire needed to be the conspiracy theory Harry Potter movie, but the director was basically just riding on the coattails of Azkaban and trying to make another slice of life boarding school drama. And it's like, dude, this is supposed to be the conspiracy theory entry. What are you doing?
And not to get too off topic, but it's interesting because at that point, Dumbledore is very sort of divorced from Harry, like, until that midway point through the series. Like, they don't have a lot to do with one another. But in that particular book, that's when he starts having sort of private conversations with Harry about the wizarding world and even like Neville's history. And instead in that movie, he's acting like, I'm confused and it's maddening. I can't figure out what's going on. And it's like, this is not Dumbledore. This is so not Dumbledore. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely
anyway,
not Gambon's fault. It's just, it was, that
Yeah.
direction
It's the
for him as a
directing,
character.
It's how he was written and how he was directed, and Gambon was just doing what he was told because, well, he's an actor. Actors take direction.
And I don't like the 6th movie, but Dumbledore was correct in the 6th movie, and he played them very well. Yeah,
that's the one thing I will say for the 6th movie. They nailed Dumbledore. At long last, they nailed Dumbledore.
Indeed.
Even when they broke the lore and had him apparate, that was great. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. But anyway.
You're
so now
about
we
the
get
present.
the Sorting Hat's introduced. This old raggedy. Harry's not very impressed with it, and then it starts singing.
Yeah, which is an infamous joke.
Can I just say something? Like, let me just ask you all a question. Before you saw the films or listened to the audio dramas, what kind of voice did you imagine the Sorting Hat had?
Basically the same one we got. It was definitely one of those ones that nailed it for me in the film.
Well, the same one we got in the audio drama or the film?
Oh, the film.
I've never heard.
The audio, because in the audio drama they give it this like squeaky voice.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Really annoying.
I've never heard
chipmunkish. Yeah.
Oh God, I never heard the audio drama, so I did not know. And I probably did have a different voice in mind when I read the book, but it's been eclipsed and buried by Gryffindor.
I know, but it's so bad. It's like, you might belong in Gryffindor. It's like, oh my God.
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. That's more or less what it sounds like.
Yeah, which is horrific.
It's kind of the most similar speaking voice is Pettigrew's. The way that he voices Pettigrew is how the how Hat sort of sings. Yeah, but I mean, it's appropriate for Pettigrew because he's a rat. Like, but I mean, no.
Yeah, no, I definitely had the same similar sort of kind of gravitas to the Hat in my head that the film went with, and I appreciate the kind of direction on that one.
Who voiced the Hat in the films?
Oh, I
actually don't know.
I don't know either, actually. I have to look that up for when we get to it.
Post in the comments if you know.
We'll have to look that up when we get to them as well. If not,
they don't know. They're just going to go IMDb and like pretend like they knew. Like post in the comments. So don't lie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Be honest.
But yeah, we have the infamous song that Rowling basically just avoided writing ever again.
She writes at least 2 of these, right? Is there 3?
I think there's 3, but definitely 2.
I think there's 2 full ones, and then they enter just as the 3rd one is getting like wrapped up or something like that.
Some of the later ones are quite a bit longer than this one. And I like, it's always been my theory that she comes up with wacky adventures to prevent Harry from being at the feast just to avoid a song wherever she can. So I don't feel like writing one this book. Like, he's going to wind up in the hospital with Dementor attack.
Blame her. Well, songwriting is difficult.
But she did a good job with this one. It was a nice little setting up of the houses and their different traits and how they kind of have a different history and all that. And all of the songs that she does in the book are good. But this one is obviously the classical intro to the Hogwarts, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we kind of he kind of highlights what kind of traits for each house. Gryffindor with their bravery, Hufflepuff with their dedication, Ravenclaw, knowledge, Slytherin, and their ambition and all that.
Yep.
Which is the first time we really get like that outline in the book. Obviously, we've been talking about it as we know beforehand, but this is the first time we have it laid out for us in the material. So it is literally our introduction to the houses, which I think is apt given the fact that this is the sorting hat. This is the thing that's going to be sorting them into the houses themselves. But yeah, the sorting hat ends.
What happens after
sorting hat ends its song, and then we get to the sorting itself, with the students terrified and stepping up to be judged ahead of the school.
Just want to point out for all my fellow Hufflepuffs out there, Hufflepuff is the first one sorted in.
Yeah, the first Hufflepuff. Big difference from the films, of course, is the fact that the sorting hat doesn't just scream out inner thoughts to the entire school, and it's like, oh, lots of very cunning, I see, not a bad mind. That kind of weird.
It's played more like it's an internal thing as opposed to an external.
Well, yeah, it's definitely internal because he doesn't actually hear what is being said for the other students.
That's what I mean, like in comparison to the films.
I mean, does he say anything about anybody in the movie other than Harry? I feel like he just shouts out where they go. Another Weasley.
I know just what to do with you.
Okay, yeah, Ron.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, that's what I was asking about. Yeah,
but I always kind of interpret it as something like when Harry puts it on, he's speaking in his ear. I always figured it was like what he was doing for everyone.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly what he definitely is. Yeah. But I just mean
I'm willing to accept what they did with the hat in the movie as a visualization, because I do think it would just look a little bit weird to just have poor Daniel Radcliffe just sitting there with the hat, hearing the voice, but not seeing the hat move. It's like I can accept what they did as a visual trick and, just kind of go with it because movie. But yeah, in the book, it's like the book makes more sense where it's just like you have your internal dialogue with the sorting hat, and then it yells out your house and you're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely no issue with the films.
You talk to it. It's not like all mental. You talk to it, but it's a hush-hush conversation, Because Hermione reveals later on that it considered putting her in Ravenclaw, but there's no indication of that from Harry's perspective because he didn't hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I completely understand why the film did what it did. Obviously, it's not not a flaw with the film. It's funny to think about those people who are conflicted or have particularly negative traits, perhaps, and it's just screaming them out. So you're a manipulative person. You should be in Slytherin. It's like what?
Yeah.
To me, in a way, it's somewhat less revealing to because all anyone's thinking about right now is themselves. Like, oh shit. Like no one is thinking. They're not gonna remember what was said about them. It's like but like when Lupin shows up and let's all see what your worst fears are individually. There's nothing crossing the threshold, like right there, of inappropriate. But yeah, I mean that would freak me out if I had to share that.
And we get kind of little character moments, like when Malfoy sits down, it like calls out Slytherin, like the second it gets put on his head.
Barely touches his top of his
Same
head
as the movie,
It's another little detail where Slytherin is spoken with just a little note of contempt, because it's like in the movie the hat's lowered down and it says Slytherin, and it's almost like the hat is thinking, oh god, so Slytherin, get away from me.
I don't want to touch this. Oh, Slytherin. But at the same time, in the books and how it's presented, that it's very unbiased. It's always been something I've liked. The fact that he does have respect for all of the houses. He's Godric's hat, but Godric was best friends with Slytherin, so it makes sense that he has this appreciation for all of the different kind of traits.
He does say the founders put some brains in me. Like that means all four of them, not just Gryffindor. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And well, regarding the Slytherin house itself, I do kind of find it very interesting in that there actually quite a few very strong, good-aligned wizards who are members of Slytherin House. I love the fact that Merlin was a Slytherin. Like,
we mentioned
that's
before.
So interesting.
It is very good.
Yeah.
I like that they could definitely have been more focused on having more normal Slytherins, but I think at least in the early books it would have kind of diluted the message she was going with for like the kids' approach. Later on, I think we could have definitely had a bit, maybe just one character that kind of encapsulates the idea that you shouldn't judge the entire house based on it, because we get that mentioned a lot, but we never really have a character representing that point.
I agree with that, because it
definitely would have helped make it a little bit more well-rounded.
Someone in the order could have been just a noted Slytherin.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Snape is, but I mean, it's sort of retroactive. But I mean, it wasn't until Slughorn was introduced, and he's borderline because he has unsavory qualities, but he's not. Yeah. He's clearly not evil. Like that was like the first one I found charming in a way,
Yeah.
And the other
which is late in the series.
The other thing is I do think that they should have had a discussion about, yes, the Slytherin hat is ambition, but ambition doesn't always manifest itself in negative or exploitative ways. Sometimes it's just a very, very strong competitive drive. It's also, what is your ambitious desire? Not everyone who's ambitious is chasing after wealth and social status. Some people have their
Regulus Black. He already had those things. He was just sort of living up to family honor, and then he said, "Fuck this!" Like when he got there. But anyway,
Regulus Suzuki.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah.
So then Harry's called up. Big moment.
Yes, and we get like the introspective idea of how he's trying to. The hat is kind of reading into what he thinks is part of Harry, but it's obviously the tail end of Voldemort that's clinging to his soul that we don't know anything about at this point. But it's like he's very much saying, "Oh, you would be, good in Slytherin. It's like this is the house that you want to go for. It would be very good placement for you." And it's like, nope. Not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Is okay, fine, whatever. I'll put you in Gryffindor then. We get that kind of first little hint of the fact that personal choice is truly the defining factor in the decision, provided you have an opinion on it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and you say that it's like the piece of Voldemort, but I think some of it is just Harry's personality. Like he could fit there, like if he wanted to, if he wanted to be there. He comes to view it that way himself by the end, the way he talks to his son when he's sending him off to Hogwarts. But also, in a way, like, aren't technically him and Voldemort are very distantly related, yeah? Like, because of the Peverell brothers,
and the Gaunts,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he came from Cadmus's line, and Harry came from Ignotus?
Ignatius?
Yeah. So yeah, they're he has Slytherin in him.
Slytherin genes.
And I think it's also a perfect examination of how a lot of traits have overlap. Because as I was mentioning earlier, ambition can manifest as competitive drive, which is typically associated with the Gryffindors. It kind of, it's like the Gryffindor traits, which in this book we're told are kind of unambiguously good, but then in later books we find out, no, Gryffindors can be assholes. Poor MacLeod.
Yeah, the typical jock of the house. I can definitely understand that, and it's like I say, it's a really good scene for setting up the different, the twin different directions that Harry could have gone, because this is kind of the first step in that journey for him, where he could have gone either way. This was never set in stone that he was going to be the chosen one good guy that he became.
Mm-hmm.
And he could easily have just taken that route. He could have taken the route with Malfoy and been a little bit more sinister in life. But
the sorting with Harry, and the dialogue is basically just lifted straight from the movie. There's not that much of a in terms of
the dialogue in the film is lifted straight from the book, but I get what you mean.
Yeah.
No, you said it the other way around.
It was lifted straight from the movie. It was funny.
Oh well, sorry.
But no,
other way around.
Yeah, other way around. But you're right. The sorting end wraps up, and we get them all sorted into the houses that will forever shape who they are as people. Golden Trio, obviously, all in Gryffindor. The twins celebrating that we got Potter. Yeah. I've always felt that brilliant. Like the twins standing out in the crowd, both here and with the song we'll mention in a second. I really love. It kind of helps set that visual in your head of them all being school kids and messing around.
Yep, and I also do like the fact that the way the twins deal with Harry upon meeting him and his fame is they literally just straight up make fun of it and mock it. And for that reason, Harry becomes friends with them, because it's like, oh, thank God, you don't judge me based on my fame. You just make fun of that and take me for who I am. Thank you.
They're very good. You see in little tidbits throughout all of the books. They're very good at dealing with people as as just who they are and who they represent to them. They're not big on status or
not at all. Yeah,
because they are they do have a lot of kind of social power within the kind of Hogwarts dynamic, but they don't wield it. They just kind of have it. It makes them very enjoyable as characters.
They've only been here for 2 years too, and they're already kind of like the life of the school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really enjoyable to watch, and she always makes a good job of selling that whenever there's an opportunity. Like for example with the We Got Potter thing. And everyone's obviously celebrating the fact that they got Harry Potter because they got the other boy who lived. It kind of adds a little bit more weight to the whole spectacle that we'll see at the very start of the next chapter. But yeah, then Dumbledore stands up with a weird line of, well, you said at the start, Connor.
Well, he was going to say a few words.
Yeah.
He did say a few words.
Yeah.
Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I would like to say a few words, and here they are. Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak. Thank you.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
Is he a bit mad?
Yeah.
mad.
He's genius. Brilliant. He's a bit mad though, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Greatest wizard in the world. But yeah, he's a bit mad. Yeah, it's funny because we get a lot of interplay, obviously, as the feast starts up and we get to see these just the descriptions of this glorious food that I would absolutely love to be able to just eat, mouth salivating as I reread the book.
You know, here's the hilarious thing. When I was a little kid, I read this, mouth watering. Today, I'm reading this and I'm just like, that is just way too much food. Because today, I do not have this, despite my less than amazing waistline, I don't have the appetite that I had when I was little. It's like trips to the buffet today are just wasted on me because I can barely make it through like 1.5 plates and then I'm stuffed.
I could definitely make a dent in the Great Hall table. I think it's just the food that's described. So, oh God, I want it all. I want it all, and I want it now.
Hey, you know
rereading this scene along with like the candy cart from earlier, I find that she has a particular talent for describing food.
Well, the one thing that describing things in general, but yeah, it definitely sells when something is relatable and I want this now as food.
The one thing that always boggled my mind though was pumpkin juice. Is that a thing?
No, it's a Hogwarts. I mean, it does exist obviously, but it's not like a staple as it is presented in the Hogwarts setting.
It just seems like what they have like with every meal, like instead of water or something. Yeah.
I mean, after these books got famous, they made real butterbeer.
Yes, yeah,
like cream soda,
loads of stuff.
I'm actually interested in sampling pumpkin juice. I've never had pumpkin juice. Has anyone ever had pumpkin juice?
It's all right. It's definitely not a drink I would consider a staple.
I've eaten
like orange
pumpkin
juice
before, but I've never drank it.
But it's reasonable. It tastes all right.
I don't like the smell of like a pumpkin, so I don't think I want.
No.
I don't think I want juice made from it.
There's a lot more sugar in the juice that I had anyway, so it doesn't have as pungent a smell. But it was it was nice enough. I wouldn't have it as frequently as I would orange juice, though. It definitely is something that was put in the setting just to be like, oh, let's have it stand out, one step away from the norm. But we get throughout the feast itself as well. We get lots of conversation between different characters. We've got Percy talking to Hermione, and Hermione talking about how she's a big fan of Transfiguration. That's something that she's interested in. We have talking to Seamus and how he's half and half, Muggleborn and wizarding. And also, most specifically, Neville is going to get the introduction to him and his ridiculousness because he was always he thought he was always a squib.
Yeah.
Well, his family
the cat had imagining
entirely
until my great uncle hung me by my his great uncle literally hung him as he was a baby. Over.
Yeah, then somebody offered him like a sweet or something. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll have one. Yeah.
He just drops Neville out the window.
Thanks. Yeah.
So, oh my God, great Uncle Algie. But no, that's the one. But Albert, I think it is for Neville. But yeah, and Blackpool Pitt is pushing him off the edge. It's like, what are you doing, you madman? But fortunately, Neville was magical, so he managed to make it to Hogwarts.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's just a nice little fleshing out of that. But yeah,
it kind of makes me wonder, like, is that common? Like, how common is that? Like, for parents? I hope it's not.
That cannot be a normal
Neville's family. Yeah.
I really hope it is just his family. Otherwise,
yeah.
Madness.
Well, the one thing that does have to be considered is that, especially after Fantastic Beasts stated outright that wizards are more physically resilient than regular humans, well, the wizarding community has a totally different attitude towards safety. Because for them, it's like when you're a physical tank who can be dropped out of take a 2-story drop, and it's like, oh, I'm bruised. Whatever.
Okay, I think this would clearly have been fatal had he not been magical.
Yeah, pretty much. But because he is magical, it's like the wizards it ain't no thing. Especially when, because that's just the way they go. They roll.
Yeah, the way the magic kind of primarily manifests, I guess. I've always been a fan of them being a bit more fragile than that, but apparently that's not the case.
Well, I mean, it's not as though he bounced because his body will always do that. It's like he instinctively would have done whatever charm, like the way that Harry got rid of the glass. Like it's just like magic,
Indeed, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This chapter also talks about
he breaks his arm when he falls and he doesn't bounce. Like later on. Yeah. So
this chapter also makes note of when Harry was younger in school, he accidentally turned his teacher's wig.
I was thinking about that. That was odd. Like why would the teacher trace it to him, and like what was their interpretation of what happened? Like, I don't know what he did, but he turned it blue somehow while it was on my head. It's like
it's the Incredibles. Really? Like, it's the Incredibles. It's the thumbtack thing.
Yeah, it is. It's like that. Like I actually thought of that. Yeah.
You see it? You
Yep. It is coincidence. I think not. Yeah.
But yeah, that leads into the conversation with Percy, which as Harry's asking who that is, when next to Quirrell, that's Professor Snape, and is the kind of descriptive narration from Percy on him as Harry looks at him and gets the infamous kind of scar moment, which is the first time it hurts.
Which doesn't really track because he's not Voldemort. But I mean, it's clearly like this, and even the next chapter. Well, even more so the next chapter. We're clearly setting up Snape as like the red herring. Like this is our bad guy for the book.
And it is a good red herring. I mean, particularly for children. It's not like it came out of nowhere and it was just off purely for his visuals. Quirrell is right there with the turban right there as well, so it completely makes sense that you'd think it was Snape first glance. She executed that well.
And in the film, he's literally like right next to Snape with his head turned.
Yeah, but it describes him. Harry, so it describes him as looking past Quirrell and like straight into Harry's eyes, and like that's the moment when he feels it. Like that's just sort of like, what? Yeah, but I mean. It's fine. I get what she's doing, but to me, it's like that's a technical.
I do find it interesting that the first thing that Snape does when he sees Harry Potter is he makes direct eye contact with him, foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Eye contact is important for him.
And I can also imagine why his first thought is intense dislike, because he's literally seeing the face of the man he hates more than anyone else in all of existence, with the eyes of the woman he loved more than anyone else in all of existence.
Mm-hmm. We'll get more on his thoughts on that in the next chapter. But yeah, this is the first kind of meeting of him, and he's just kind of you see this piercing look, and he immediately looks away, back to Quirrell and their conversation, which is very well captured in the film as well. I enjoyed that the subtlety of the glance presented in the films. It was kind of like he looked at him and kind of immediately looks away again. It's like nothing to see here. That's basically how I read it in the book now. I mean, it definitely played across very, very true to the books on the film side.
Yep. And I gotta wonder, what were Snape and Quirrell discussing while sitting here? Because we do read it, we do listen in on some of their conversations later in the book, but it's like, were they discussing the exact same stuff, or leading or was it just...
Honestly, Quirrell, you really need to do something about that garlic. It smells like something dying in there. It's like, I can give you a fragrance. It'll dry that right up.
I would have always just imagined like Voldemort just telling like Quirrell, just ask him questions, like see like how deep in Dumbledore's pocket is he? Because like at this point, Voldemort doesn't consider Snape a loyal follower. He thinks he's a traitor. Yeah,
this could have been the sort of situation where that's set. Obviously, later on in the book, that's proven, at least red herring wise, wrong. But yeah, I always liked that dynamic of how Snape did act in Hogwarts and as an agent for Voldemort, how he could spin it and play it off as being, no, I was always loyal. I had to be an effective agent, though, didn't I? I've always enjoyed that. Snape's very good at being that manipulated character.
And it's also just the fact that when you actually stop and think about this from Snape's perspective, it's like finding out that Quirrell is chasing after the stone, but not knowing about the Voldemort soul thing. Well, it's like, as far as he's concerned, it truly is just weak and unworthy Quirrell.
Yeah, he has no way of proving otherwise at the moment.
He does know, though, at some point that Voldemort is back there, right? Like, doesn't he? Because, like,
I don't think he does.
Well,
I think they figure out that Quirrell is probably on Voldemort's payroll.
I don't know that they know that he's on the back of his head.
Yeah.
But like literally, in the seventh book where there's that whole flashback, The Prince's Tale, there's a moment where at the end of a conversation with Dumbledore's like, oh, and keep an eye on Quirrell, okay? Like, so like they're totally onto him.
But
You know,
it's like how onto him are they? Is it like, oh, is he just some dark wizard wannabe who wants the Philosopher's Stone? Or
it's like
yeah.
I mean, he came back wearing a turban for no reason, and Dumbledore's like,
Yeah.
like, there's something weird here. Yeah.
Oh God, that's the other thing about the early books, how completely sort of oblivious Dumbledore has to be, and yet also all-knowing. You know, it's like, oh, you did go and try and save the stone then, just as I'd planned, and yet for some reason did nothing about. It's just like, what?
Or
What
like
is happening?
like Hagrid,
It's
you know, like Hagrid, where's your intel? Like, oh, Professor Dumbledore, sir, that day that the vault was robbed, I ran into Quirrell, who you said is acting weird. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that might be. Could we do like a little calculation here, Dumbledore? But yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But
course, I
also,
think-
sorry. Go on, Connor.
I think the other thing to consider is the fact that Dumbledore has to know things, but he can't afford to tip his hand because he doesn't want Quirrell to know he's on to him. So he's got to keep things on the down low.
True.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
still.
to be fair, the stone is very well guarded, so like
Yes,
he
yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
have too
it's-
much reason to be that concerned. I mean, they even get through all the traps, and still they were never going to get it.
Yeah,
You know?
the main layers themselves are kind of redundant. Apart from slowing the
Yeah.
person down, you're never going to get it if you want it. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's brilliant. No, I've always
Ironic.
loved that last puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the other thing I want to comment on is that Snape has no goatee. You mentioned in the chapter art for your guys' chapters for the next one, he has a goatee on his face, which I was like, what? That's a thing? I'm pretty sure that's not a thing. And then it's never described.
I remember watching a documentary about J.K. Rowling, and she actually showed off some of her own handmade sketches of the characters, and her handmade sketch of Snape had him with a goatee.
Well, there are some with
Booyah.
and some without.
You're
like,
toast,
like
yeah.
she
Yeah.
doesn't. She hadn't seen. She maybe hadn't settled on it, and she never describes it in the book. So I'm going without. You know, it's without goatee.
Yeah.
It's creative license on the
It
artist's
kind of makes sense to me that Snape would probably want to be clean shaven anyway, because my personal headcanon is that Snape actually has a very practical reason for having his hair being all greasy. It's literally because he probably just coats it with some sort of protective ointment. So when his potions blow up in his face, because even for him that sometimes happens, he doesn't want his hair to light on fire.
That's an
Wow,
interesting
for real?
headcanon.
I don't. Well, I didn't know they made headcanon for matters of this. You know.
Oh yes,
Well,
yes.
just-
There's headcanon
Plus,
for
it might
everything.
make. I mean, him having a goatee might make his quote unquote evilness a little too over the top. Because the bad guy always has the goatee.
Well, the problem is giving Alan Rickman a goatee in that movie would basically turn from Professor Snape into Hans Gruber. Yippee-ki-yay,
Yeah, you can't do
motherfucker.
that. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Yeah.
But yeah, and everything else, it's not described in the prose. Therefore, in my head I had it right. I was like, 5-year-old Callan did not fail and miss this line that I thought I might have done. I've been imagining him wrong all these years. So yeah, I'm vindicated in that way. But yeah, then we get Dumbledore's announcement.
Yeah.
At the end of the feast, everyone's well fed and stands up and gives the strangest first term announcement. The mundanes are like
Quidditch tryouts and
Quidditch tryouts.
Day Out of the Forest.
Looks at the twins.
Yeah.
They're in year 3 or whatever they're in. And it's just like, ooh, you. Twinkle of the eye. Resetting the twinkle actually, because the eye twinkle is extremely important with Dumbledore. It's how she expresses attention from him and humor, and it's and when it specifically dies out in the very start of the book. For a moment when he's grieving and the sadness of Harry's situation, the absence of it is as powerful as the presence. And it's always throughout the books.
Yeah, it conveys positive emotion. Like the idea is he has like an impassive face, and doesn't like express his face very much, but you can see in his eyes how he feels about whatever.
Yeah, deep wells. It's always been one of my favourite kind of descriptions for him, that twinkle. But yeah, so he says about the forest and then the Quidditch trials, and then he also specifically says you don't want to go to the third floor corridor on the right hand side unless you want to die a very painful death. And it's like Harry and a few other people laugh, but everyone else is silent. It's like is that just normal? Like are they used to like crazy things like that? And yeah, it's always been very strange to me that they would use an entire third floor corridor when they could have just put it in a dungeon or something. Let's just have it so it's right in the line of sight of students. Don't go in here, guys. Like off bounds.
Well,
No one will go in there.
I think a lot of it also probably has something to do with how the castle itself is built and its internal layout. Because the impression I have is that it's a rambling structure that's been getting additional add-ons over the years, and as a result, the internal layout doesn't quite make sense. Even when you ignore the whole magical aspect of staircases moving, it's literally just the fact that this place wasn't designed and built from scratch. It was expanded outwards, so you got a lot of portions that don't quite match up well. And, well, it seems to me that maybe that's just a portion where they deliberately designed a third-floor corridor entrance to a completely separate set of dungeons, which is where they hid the Philosopher's Stone, because it was completely removed from the rest of the dungeons.
I mean, it's entirely possible, but it's never described, so it's always been a bit odd to me that they dedicate this entire wing of the school to this protection when they could have put it somewhere safer. I mean, even not in the Hogwarts building itself, but it's nitpick anyway. I just found it amusing that he'd say, don't go here, kids. No one will ever try to get into there, Weasley twins.
An Infinity War, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, just throw it in the ocean.
Yeah, there's buried at the bottom of the Pacific.
Yeah.
But yeah, that happens effectively. They warn that off, and then Percy specifically says, oh well, he usually gives us a reason for not going somewhere. This is unusual. And it kind of sets alarm bells off in Harry's head. The kind of first little tiny trace of his detective mystery setup, which gets kind of cemented at the beginnings of in the next chapter.
And then we get the rousing Hogwarts anthem.
Oh god, I thought we could skip that. I've
already skipped it in my head.
Yeah,
we're done talking about that.
Yeah,
in my head canon, we've already talked about that.
Yeah, when I went to camp, as a kid, even as a 5-year-old, I just detested this kind of stuff. The cringe has always been Callan's kryptonite. I cannot stand it. It's like, oh god, I'm right there with the teachers who just have those suddenly fixed smiles. It's like, yes, this is fine. We don't hate this. As Dumbledore just conducting everyone doing a different tune. And the audio visual of the twins just standing there doing a bloody funeral march song at the end.
Yeah.
Dumbledore getting completely into it. It's like, oh Jesus.
It said he wiped his eyes after all
this
was
done. It's like, music, truly it is the greater than any magic we do here.
Yeah.
Which is just fun. It's funny how he plays to the crowd there, because Dumbledore obviously is just amusing the kids at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah. They run off to the common room, and we still got a few things to talk about.
First introduction.
Yeah. Portrait's first introduction.
Mm-hmm.
P's
you mean
first
the fat
introduction.
lady? Oh, no, you meant portraits in general.
Yeah, because he's not really noting it as much as he would do because he's tired. But he's just like, oh, magical stuff. No, who cares? I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's like small child. But yeah, and then we also get Peeves. This is the first introduction of Peeves. It's completely removed from the films.
Everyone's favorite character.
Definitely not someone I miss in the films, really.
Not really.
He's he's something I find interesting in the books because, it kind of makes sense Hogwarts would have something, but I don't mind them axing him from the movies because, well, pretty much the most impressive thing he does is beat Umbridge with a cane.
Yeah, and Wazzy was
that actually
from
that is his most amusing
shining moment. Yeah. They put him in the PS1 game.
Yes, I enjoyed those.
Yeah, looking nothing like what I pictured him as, but
yeah.
Well, the funny thing I remember is that they actually did cast a guy to play Peeves and actually filmed him. They were basically filmed this comedian in front of a blue screen just running around, and were going to composite him in, but then they decided to cut the character, and comedian. I
think it was the right choice.
Same thing happened with Lupin's son, which I don't like.
It's definitely someone who's just redundant as a character, not the son necessarily, but Peeves. He didn't need to be in it, but as part of the book, some flavour background. He's always been reasonably enjoyable. I mean, not a character I particularly focus on, but he's there.
Well, he sometimes works as like a plot, point. Like he sometimes is there to get people into trouble, or he serves as an obstacle when they're creeping around the school when they shouldn't be. Yeah. But yeah, he's not a particularly.
An obstacle, which actually makes his inclusion in the video game rather appropriate.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's fine in the books. I don't miss him in the movies at all. He's not necessary. You said,
yeah. Just that minor foil.
So we get our first introduction to the common room. Talks about the big squishy chairs, the fireplace, and the decor. All very nice and cozy.
Yeah, cozy is the word. Gryffindor common room is nothing else, if not that. And they go to bed basically. Put on their pajamas, and the chapter ends with the
Like he has a
weirdest dream.
Weird dream.
Yeah, and I'm like, why did she write this? And I was trying to think, like, what is the purpose of this? Because even he doesn't remember having it. And I go, oh, this is for the reader to like pick out the names of the people you're supposed to focus on in this book, because he's dreaming about Quirrell and Malfoy and Snape, who are all going to be our bad guys, you know, going forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for the kids to be like, oh, I need to remember these characters, like subconsciously. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It does
It's
kind of
fine
make
if you view it
sense.
from that lens, but any other way, it just seems redundant.
Yeah, it's weird.
It kind of does make sense from the perspective of it's like he's in close proximity to Voldemort, and the Voldemort soul within him is kind of starting to talk to him and trying to exert its influence because of his proximity to Voldemort. And I do find it interesting. It's like he was wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, which kept talking to him. It's like
Yeah, it's like a little bit.
And it's almost an interesting window into what Quirrell himself is probably dealing with, because I can't imagine having that Voldemort face on the back of your head would be a pleasant experience, especially given
that wouldn't be fun for you.
Yeah.
Especially given how Quirrell
understatement of the
specifically
century,
states-
Connor.
Yeah.
It's like he made me hurt.
Yeah, have any of you guys seen the Harry Potter musical?
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's not that bad.
No,
You talk about like,
it's-
the fact that you say you can't handle cringe. That's like chock full of it. Like it's like 70% cringe easily.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
a mix, like 50-50 mix of genius and just terrible for me. You know, it's brilliant in one way and then completely cringe for the next. But
Never seen so much as a minute.
I think you overuse the word terrible a lot, but in this case, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I definitely do. I just mind it, just that. But yeah, it's one of those things. But that specifically bring that up is because they do a lot with the turban idea.
Yeah, that's like a plot point in it. Yeah, that's like his whole character. Like he has like what do you call those? Like soliloquies or whatever.
Yeah.
Like where he's just like, yeah.
It's very well done on that
But
front.
anyway,
But that
so that's
closes
this
up the
chapter
chapter,
done,
yeah.
right? Closing thoughts on Sorting Hat. Anybody got any tangents?
Not that we haven't covered,
It's-
really. It's a nice introduction to the school.
Well presented. Everything that needs to be there is there. Good.
I do
plot
find
point
it-
set up for future stuff.
Yeah. I do find it interesting because noting it's like some more characterization for Percy, like kind of reinforcing his personal obsession with authority and status, because he's just like, oh, why isn't Dumbledore telling us prefects this secret thing? We should know. Or Peeves doesn't even listen to us prefects. It's like this guy is so obsessed with bureaucratic authority. And you can kind of see the first little foreshadowing of what happens in Book 5 in these moments where it's just like, why am I not getting special treatment because of my position of authority?
Yeah,
it's like the difference between like the difference between like a good cop and a bad cop. Like a bad cop just wants the authority to like, you know, boss people around and wield power, and like another person's actually going to be a public servant. Like Percy's definitely chasing power.
It's the difference between Percy as a prefect and Hermione as a prefect. You know, someone who actually tries to do good and someone who's just trying to be that thing. Yeah.
And it's also
he's a lot more covetous.
It's also interesting because you mentioned how Percy is chasing power. That's where his desire for authority comes from, because it's another representation of exactly what Ron himself is dealing with, feeling overshadowed by his brothers. When you're in such a big family where you basically have to spread your attention and everyone has to spread their attention, you kind of find yourself feeling a bit neglected, and it's just like you want to distinguish yourself and become the center of attention to make up for that. And this is how Percy's doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of interesting because when Ron does become a prefect, he's not exactly a great one. You know, he definitely comes close to abusing his power or just shirking his duty. He's like, I don't want to do this, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both chasing it in different ways or for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely worth noting. Thanks for that, Connor, because we skimmed over those comments in the chapter.
It's like Percy is a character that I just find so interesting in the books, and I'm so disappointed that he was just relegated to the background in the movies.
He's never been someone I've been personally interested in. Like he was always the least favorite of the Weasleys for me, but I think for most people, to be honest. But
for everyone.
I can get a little bit of interest from the way it's presented, at least.
The thing is, it's interesting in the books, the dynamic he has with the family. It's just not present on screen is all, you know. But I mean, he's not a character that I like you know, but you don't have to be likable to be interesting.
Yeah,
Snape, you know.
Yeah.
We'll get to that next chapter. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's just one of those characters that I never had a particular investment in either way, just from enjoyment levels. But with that, I think we covered everything from that chapter. Yeah, guys? We're good to wrap up?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, then. I'm Rutty 4, and I still don't have an outro. See you next time, guys.
Grigida 91. Bye-bye.
Evan Open 95. We hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you guys later. Mischief managed.
Hogwarts.
No. That's enough of that. No. I'm trying. Bye.